timeliness, safety, and now providing the community options to get around. We look at Rogers, we've added another route up there. We look at Fayetteville, we added a route there. We look at Springdale, we added a route there. And now we're actually connecting West Fork all the way out to Lincoln and back. Using the products that we're talking about here, when we're talking about preaching to the community about how to get around the community and what you should be using, and let's practice what we preach.
And they're very friendly and helpful. Like, I'll get on and I'll say, oh, I need to go to the chamber, okay, get out the convention center, and they'll even call the other bus and say, I've got a connection, make sure to pick this person up. They're extremely happy to help.
And then, of course, the other thing is in all communities that I've been in, how do we blend the worst of the worst? The drunken homeless guy who hasn't taken a bath in 6 weeks with a business professional. How do we blend? That's one of the biggest challenges that we come across. Because we want everybody who's in the business community or anybody who's using it for recreational purposes to have a safe, convenient ride. But we also want to make sure that we open it up to everybody, because it is public transit. It's for anybody who has the buck and a quarter to get on board. We blend that through safety, security focus, making sure that people don't act a fool when they get on the bus, making sure that people are respectful of each other's station and or position when they get on the bus. And you will find, and I have found, not you, I can't speak for anybody here, I have found that when we have that high level of dignity and respect, safety and security on the bus, that the guy who hasn't bathed in 6 weeks is very respectable to the people who have just got on in a 2-piece suit, 3-piece suit, whatever the trend is now, and going to their business meeting. So that's all I have to say about transit, is that if we're here and we got it, are we using it?
Joe.
We've seen a 19% increase in the last 12 months since I've been here, because we've done some minor changes.
Yes. And
I want to tag on to what Joel's saying. Half the people in the room may not have used transit. That could be that you're not living close enough to the line. Both Razorback Transit and Ozark Transit, we respond to requests from the public with interest in using transit. Not every case can we reroute any of our lines directly to the location, but if it's minor changes, we can definitely look at that. We're looking at making significant changes to our TAN route east of I-49, so creating another route this year. So just communicate with us. If there's a need, we need to know about it. Not everything can't happen in 1 year, but it can go into future planning.
Sean wanted us to mention too, and I'm the PR guy for ORT, so I'll plug a selfish promotion here. But we do have a new phone app called Route Shout. You can go to our website and get it, and it will actually give you exactly where the bus stop closest to your location is, and when the bus will count down minute by minute how long the bus will be till it gets there. So we're making it easier to find us and to use us. And I'll just plug. We're going to have a free fare promotion June 16th through 20th as part of the National Dump Pump Week. So if you haven't tried transit, going back to Joel's challenge, try it that week because it's free.
And also just let me chime in, since this is a sustainability group and I guess a lot of you cycle. So while we try to put the feeder bus system in place to take you to the station, you can actually pick up your bicycle, cycle from home, using your app to find out where is the next bus stop closest to you, and then both the buses will actually take your bicycle, take you where you want to go. You get down, you cycle, and carry on.
so we just look up Route Shout on our phone?
Yes, ma'am. It's mrouteshout.com. And it is a free application.
You go to our website too, www.ozark.org, and we got
Yes, they give you 2 pieces of information from where you are, where is the closest bus stop, so you know where it is, and then how many more minutes the next bus would come.
Yeah.
So it's that convenience.
Razorback Transit also has that. We're looking at integrating access to both applications through one portal. Currently, the address for Razorback Transit is campusmaps.ur.edu. It's not a app-specific web browser enabled device.
Say that website again.
campusmaps.uark.edu.
And you can just search like reroute UART or purple bus and there it all comes up and it'll give you a PDF on your phone and you can just look at the time and because the timing is so reliable, you can know that you're gonna get the bus at that one time, so.
If you're looking this fall for a rebranded form of the campus maps, it'll make it a little bit easier for transit customers to find that.
We're down to about 10 minutes, so there's a couple more slides I want to present really quickly, and then we'll have a few minutes for questions and discussion. But I just want to point out that the European Commission has developed something called Urban Mobility Action Plans or Sustainable Urban Mobility Plans, or SUMPs, and I think it's a nice way to approach transportation. Similar things are happening in the U.S. This is just a little more formalized process. And the main thrust of it is that you're designing communities for people, not just automobiles. And if you look at some of the differences in the way they approach things, instead of a focus on cars and traffic, it's on people. Primary objective, instead of maximizing traffic flow and speed and capacity, you're looking at a more broader approach to quality of life, sustainability, economic viability, social equity, health, and environmental quality. More of a focus on multimodal types of transportation, more of a focus on short and medium-term delivery of plans versus with a long-term vision and strategy, and an interdisciplinary approach to planning. It's not just the domain of traffic engineers. You have a lot of different interest groups involved. That's kind of what we're doing here. We're getting a lot of people involved, the community involved. And instead of having, expert traffic engineers, you have interdisciplinary involvement of different stakeholders. So that's an important element of it. That's really all I have, I believe. And so, anybody I have one question, and then my question is about the two transportation. So, Razorback Transit is free to anybody in the community, correct?
That's correct. And we are fare free at the door.
Right.
The funding comes from federal grants. University of Arkansas allocations, City of Fayetteville grants, as well as the state rental car tax.
Right. And so that makes it kind of hard for you guys, I guess. But you charge $1.25 per ride, no matter where you're going. Is that how it works?
It's $1.25 for a one-way trip, and other are discounts for disabled, senior, that type of thing. But our route fare is $1.25 for a one-way trip.
Whether it's a barrier or not, I don't believe it is. You look at it more as a transfer fee. Because the regional system doesn't have the same funding streams that we do. Right. So if you want to go travel farther out into the community or farther north to other communities, $1.25 is not a bad price to get to
Bentonville,
wherever you want to go. So Razorback Transit is the core system for the city of Fayetteville. So we're going to boost and support that. Let's go ahead and take questions. Sarah?
I just wanted to add that from the city's perspective, we have commissioned the ADA Transportation Master Plan study. We're not just study, an action plan. We would hire the firm, or we selected the firm.
We've selected the firm. We're negotiating the price. HNTB out of Kansas City will be the lead consultant. The secondary consultant will be Nelson Nygaard, who is the lead consultant for the university transportation plan. So that's where we'll get the crossover and the intermingling of the two plans.
And we have, requested that this new transportation plan prioritize active transportation cycling as well as public transit. So putting those cars. I think something that's really going to help our region is when the corridor is determined by the regional planning commission. And so we know where those rail stops or BRT stops are going to be, and we can make the planning adjustments in order to start shifting development in our population centers towards those. I think an important thing to remember is our demographics are shifting, and by 2030, over 80% of households are going to be child-free. And some of that is baby boomers, some of that is, the empty nesters of the big baby boomers, or the millennials who are either choosing not to have children or a lot really can't afford to because they're student loans yet. And so things are changing, and the 3-bedroom, 2-bath out in the suburb housing model is becoming obsolete. So people are wanting to move towards walkable communities, complete neighborhoods. And so the long-term vision for Fayetteville is to be a city of complete neighborhoods connected by trails and transit. But we need the regional
there are two groups that are missing to a degree in a lot of these discussions of the two counties. Because of the cheap land being in the county and that sort of thing, and that's something we have to get into the mix as well.
I guess I have my own commercial break. Is Shelley still here? I always want to add this point is that, very often you hear in planning that it's market driven, because ultimately, the market's like this huge wind that's always in your face. You want to have density downtown, but the land is cheaper out in the county, that type of thing. Shelley is a good advocate of what they call the carbon fee and dividend. That's a great incentive not to use carbon, plus everybody will get a dividend payment like they do in Alaska for oil. It makes sense. But on the urban level, there's an organization called the New Urban Congress that we actually have a delegation going to right now. One of the main spokespersons for that is a fellow named James Kunstler. If you read his second book called The Geography of Nowhere, he has a whole chapter devoted to what is known as site value taxation. And that would actually shift the market in your favor, because what you're doing is you're reducing taxes on buildings. Why punish people for putting higher density buildings downtown? But you reduce that, but put it on the site underneath. So it's a revenue neutral sort of tax. But more importantly, it seems sort of counterintuitive, but actually the rents actually come down, because you're encouraging people to utilize all these vacant lots and parking lots and plants for more density. So it shifts the market so that people can actually afford to go downtown with lower rents, and you're not being punished for putting a building in. So I encourage people to look into that. It's been a dream for a lot of people, but it has been put in place in various places around the world, as well as especially in Pennsylvania, in the cities there. It's been very effective in terms of encouraging density.
I wish I had statistics. I don't have the numbers, but I know that predictions are that as our community, as our population ages, we're getting more and more people, older people. And I understand that Fayetteville has tons of young people because of the campus, and that's always going to be true. I also would like to hear more consideration for, you're talking about walkable communities for people 60s, 70s, 80s, disabled, many of them, but not all of them. That walkability is becoming more and more of maybe a handicap rather than an asset. I don't know what the answer is, but I think I'm not going to be bicycling around town. I don't use the trails because I don't walk that far that easily. I do the one right close to my house, which is great. But, and I love it that we have these trails. I mean, I have friends who don't own cars. They bicycle everywhere in this city all the time, year-round. But I just would like to hear a little bit more thought about what's happening as we age. And it's going to be more and more of us that are going to be able to get to these places.
So I think that's a great point, and I think there's a kind of a new age in place movement now for older people wanting to live downtown. Age in place, they think they can walk to the to the store or to the theater or wherever it is, versus being automobile dependent. When you get to be 80, 85, driving a car is a little bit scary, for you and everybody else. So I do have a brother that does, I know. Anyway, that's something to think about. So,
one thing I'd like to add to that, enhancing the current public transit systems in place is one of the tools to help with that particular issue. Along with our public fixed routes that we run, we also have to offer complimentary paratransit service, which will help that person get from their house or apartment to the bus system or to their destination, depending on their individual capability. Individual trips in and of themselves are not efficient, but feeding into the major system is. So it's kind of two-part: trails, transit, aging community. They're all kind of one and the same, so all help each other.
There's another Universal design looks at other aspects above and beyond the statutory minimum requirements, and I would commend those to people because visual acuity, we built a very nice bookstore, but the stairs and the lighting and the color patterns are very difficult for someone with vision problems to discern the steps and be able to safely go up those stairs. So there's some other opportunities out there to kind of broaden and raise our game as we age.
Can you explain how the Heroku system works in Berlin?
Well, so, the transit system is actually buying a bunch of cars, and, so when you get off the train, you get one of these vehicles and you drive it to wherever your destination is, if it's a mile or two away, and then you release the car and a pod, and then somebody is going to be able to get it there and drive it back to the station, or, if you maybe you leave it there overnight and in the morning you come back and drive it, you have to pay an additional fee to use it, but, that's the idea. So,
Just to answer the feedback on everything, but in specific, Bloomberg actually in New York with the city bikes, they actually based the whole model on German principles, just with the bikes and the cars. But feedback off everything, and this is directed for the ORT representatives. What sort of incentive programs, or like say a monthly Metro card plan, do you have in place or plan to have in place for business travelers, people that are aging? Because I know a lot of people, young and old and business oriented, would be more inclined to take the regional transit if it's reduced rate for like say $4 a month, $50 a month, whatever it is, but a Metro card instead of $1.25.
We do have monthly passes. We've got different pass levels, and a 30-day pass or a monthly pass is $30, unlimited rides throughout the entire community. So we do have fare structures that are reasonable, that are achievable for almost anybody and everybody. And if you do have an organization where you are giving out passes to the people that you serve, we will sell you those passes at a reduced rate. But it's how you distribute them and the quality of control of the individual that you're giving them to make sure that when we do take that pass because somebody's misbehaved, that pass is gone. We will do, and we'll take that back to the safety security aspect of it. I want my friends and my kids and my parents to ride the bus. So I'm going to make sure that these buses are as clean and as safe and as on time as if I was putting my own 87-year-old mother on that bus. That's my commitment to the community. I want to make sure that we can get people to where they want to go and how they want to go. I want to make sure that this community called Northwest Arkansas, and I'll make that statement being in this town for 19 months now, very rarely do I meet somebody that says, oh, you're new here, welcome to Fayetteville, welcome to Springdale. They all say, welcome to Northwest Arkansas. 500,000 people strong, and we've got a public transit system here that is built for a community of about 60,000. And we've got 18 buses on the road in peak service. How many of you guys have on the road in peak service? 18 in peak. We should have 80 buses between the two of us in peak service with headways that are 15 minutes, 10 minutes in certain areas. Commuter routes that can get us from one side of town to the other side of town, or bus rapid transit that can get us into those locations. That is 10 to 12 minutes. But that requires an investment from the community. And I go back to my original statement, and I'll park this bus here in just a second, but my original statement is, practice what you preach. Get out there, use the services that you're talking about here, and make your investment into those services, not just with your mouths, but with your actions and everything that you possibly do. When somebody says, I'm all for the trails, but they don't own a bike, I wonder really how much for the trails are they? When they say, I'm all for the buses, but they've never rode the buses, how much are they really for the buses? My challenge to everybody here is not to hopefully tick anybody off, but to guilt you into ride the bus.
Get on the bus.
Ride the damn bus, that's all I
I've got a quick question I want to try to squeeze in here. With all of this transportation planning going on, are there any conversations about Fayetteville assuming the authority and the control of our Main Street and getting it out of the end, so that maybe we route our 71 business at 6th Street to 49 back to the mall, so we can, as a city, start using and planning that land more appropriately, like our Main Street, like our commercial corridor, putting bus stops in the right-of-way, putting medians and trees in the right-of-way, sidewalks where we want them, where we don't have this DMZ between the edge of curb and where we can actually even start to put in sprinklers or anything else along our commercial corridor. And so my question is are there discussions about that?
I can answer that. Unfortunately, I'm not on the transportation committee in order to review agenda items, but that's a strategy I strongly support. And actually, the city of Fayetteville, we have just applied to be part of the Arkansas Downtown Network to start a Main Street Fayetteville program, and we just received one this week that we've been accepted, so there's an announcement on that. And I think that is something that we may want to push for, because if we look at revitalizing our 71 business, really it's the highway department, and I want to say the highway and transportation department, because they also forget that word transportation is in their mission, that they are a major barrier to redeveloping that core and making it an inclusive, noble corridor. 2 years ago, I wrote the Main Street Mobility Act. We took it down to the Citizens First Congress. Actually, this group sponsored that, and we couldn't get any representatives to take it anywhere. And that would have basically required the Highway and Transportation Department to meet the existing standards in the community on the roadways, because Fayetteville does have a complete streets policy, but we really, with the Highway and Transportation Department, they don't want to put crosswalks in places where we need them. They don't want to put bus stops where we need them, or the signage to direct people to public transit. We need a serious road diet on South School Avenue to slow cars down, and there's just no willpower within that organization to do that. So I think this community is going to have to organize, and really the whole region, and be loud about our demands and find some alternative ways to achieve our goals, even if that does mean taking over the streets. But another thing was the idea of the transit passes, the monthly passes. And when I moved here from Seattle, they had a program where you had all the downtown businesses had to either provide their employees with a transit pass or pay into the transit fund. And that may be a way for us to generate more funding for ORT, because as much as I love it and I want to take the bus, there's a bus stop across the street from me, but it doesn't go to job number 1. And it will take me to job number 2, but it's not running when I need to get home at job number 2. And so we have to find a way to fund this. And we all advocated for that transit tax, which failed fairly to Fayetteville, but we've got to find a new way. But thankfully, we do have that highway turnout money, which the city of Fayetteville has been directing into sidewalk construction. We've tripled the sidewalk construction that we've been for about 3 years, which is how long we think it's going to take us to do the build out, and then we'll redirect all that to trails. So we're really focusing on building the pedestrian infrastructure and the cycling infrastructure.
We have worked with HPD on Route 112, Garland Avenue, as the city has with the median north and Weddington. We're starting construction maybe Monday on phase 1 of the missing link in between campus. And working with them, we do actually have a couple of bus pullouts in that design on the outside lanes. We are doing trees and a green on both sides to separate the sidewalks from the curbs. We have to put in the trees and drip irrigation, just like the city did north of Weddington. We maintain it in perpetuity. We also are providing all the right-of-way because it's all university land, so that there's a significant investment, but we're trying to continue what's going on north of campus on Garland and what's been done south of campus on Razorback. And if we can get all of it funded, the city's been a great partner because we've gone through the regional planning to fund both phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 is the missing one, but it's in the new 16 to 19 transportation plan that's now starting to be worked on. So we're still debating some additional crosswalks, because they've got their federal highway requirements for federal money, which is more difficult than we want to believe, but there's also ways to do it. You can do through, innovation on signage. You can go in for some experimental signage waivers and that sort of thing, which is strange, but you just have to keep at it. But they work with us, and we're making a little bit of progress.
I'd like to tag on to that. Also on MLK, you'll notice that there's a new pull-out in state right-of-way with the shelter, which is luckily just outside of state right-of-way. So the highway department is becoming a little more flexible, but there are reasons why they have the regulations they do in place. Also mentioned the city sidewalks, University, Razorback Transit, Ozark Transit, and the city did a major sidewalk installation up at Uptown Campus, the old Southwestern Energy Building, with improved shelters, sidewalks, access to the trail. That same money also is helping build the sidewalk on Huntsville, that's now currently under construction. I think about 75% complete at this point. So the groups are working to improve that connectivity. It just takes time. We've got a lot ahead of us to get through.
I was gonna say, relating to real estate, parking lots and parking spaces are the most expensive real estate in the city. And, we're building a big new parking garage now on one of the most expensive pieces of property in town. And, my son, who hasn't had a car since 1999 in San Francisco, when I told him there was gonna be a new parking garage, he was like, oh yeah, that's what we need right there. You know, because we have plenty of parking spaces, people just aren't willing to walk 4 blocks, you know? And, so, anyway, and I was so disappointed when they designed the new highway on 49 now, that they didn't include anything but automobiles.
Well, and I just, first I want to say that we're really out of time, although I'm happy to continue this conversation if you guys want to. But one thing I want to interject, I think we've had some great input here, but just, I guess I'm going to steal the show a little bit and say that when we look at the